London had a way of making people feel invisible. The crowded underground stations, the busy streets of Oxford Circus, the noise of buses rattling across Westminster Bridge, everyone seemed to be rushing somewhere, never noticing the quiet ones in their midst. Among those unnoticed souls was Emily Parker, a shy 17-year-old who lived with her mother in a small flat above a bakery in East London. Emily was the kind of girl who avoided attention. She walked with her head lowered, clutched her books close, and preferred listening to music in her tiny room instead of joining her classmates at parties. Her teachers often described her as polite but forgettable. Even her neighbors barely knew her name. What nobody knew, not even her closest friend, was that Emily had a voice that could silence a storm. But she was terrified of being heard. Her father had left when she was little, leaving behind a trail of broken promises. Since then, Emily's mother worked long hours to keep them afloat. Emily felt she shouldn't ask for more from life. She believed her voice was just a secret comfort, something to help her through the loneliness, not something the world would ever care to hear. That changed one rainy Saturday afternoon at Covent Garden. Emily had wandered into the square after visiting the library, clutching a second-hand poetry book. Street performers were scattered everywhere, jugglers, dancers, and singers battling the drizzle to entertain tourists huddled under umbrellas. One young guitarist, struggling to keep his small audience, spotted Emily lingering shyly at the edge of the crowd. "Would you sing with me?" he called, half joking, half pleading. Emily froze. Her heart thudded like thunder in her chest. People were turning toward her. She shook her head furiously and tried to step back, but the guitarist smiled gently. "Don't worry. Just one verse. You'll be great." Something in his kindness stopped her retreat. Perhaps it was the way his voice carried no judgment, only encouragement. Slowly, almost unwillingly, Emily stepped forward. The small crowd looked at her with curiosity, expecting nothing. She was just another shy girl in a gray hoodie, hair plastered to her face by the rain. The guitarist strummed the opening chords of Hallelujah. Emily opened her mouth, and the square fell silent. Her voice rose pure and trembling at first, then stronger, soaring through the rain-soaked air. It carried a raw, aching beauty that wrapped around every listener's heart. Tourists lowered their phones. Children stopped fidgeting. Even the nearby performers paused to listen. For a few enchanted minutes, the noise of London itself seemed to quiet, as though the city were holding its breath. When she finished, there was a stunned hush. Then, suddenly, applause erupted, cheers, whistles, strangers shouting, "Encore!" Tears glistened on the cheeks of a woman clutching a stroller. The guitarist himself looked dazed. Emily stood frozen, her hands trembling. She wanted to run, but instead, she smiled through tears she hadn't realized were falling. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. A man stepped forward, his accent American. "Young lady, do you know what you just did? You touched every soul here." He slipped a folded note into the guitar case, £50, far more than the busker usually made in a day. Soon, others followed. Coins and bills poured in, not just out of appreciation for the song, but out of gratitude, for the reminder that beauty can appear where we least expect it. But the most unexpected moment came when an elderly woman, her hands shaking on a cane, reached Emily. She whispered, "My husband passed last year. That song. I felt him again. Thank you, dear. Thank you." Emily's throat tightened. For years she had thought her voice was a weakness, a secret to hide. Now she realized. It was a gift meant to be shared, a gift that could heal hearts, even for just a moment. The video someone recorded that day spread across the internet within hours. Headlines appeared, "Shy London teen stuns crowd with angelic voice." Within a week, millions had watched. Record producers reached out. Radio stations played her voice. Emily's life transformed overnight. But the fame was never what she cherished most. What mattered to her was that she had touched lives. That she had seen the face of a grieving widow light up with hope, that strangers had stood shoulder to shoulder in the rain, united by one simple song. She realized the world wasn't always about who spoke the loudest or shined the brightest, it could also be moved by those who had once been silent, daring at last to speak. Months later, when Emily stood on a grand stage in London, lights blazing, cameras rolling, she took a deep breath and remembered that rainy afternoon at Covent Garden. She whispered into the microphone before her first note, "This is for anyone who ever felt invisible. Don't hide your voice. The world might need it more than you think." And with that, she began to sing again, stunning the world, not with fame, but with truth.